Hey guys, this is Sebastian, Natural Mystic Pollock, bringing you a €250 guaranteed final table commentary for rakebackdollars.com. I figured we'd change it up a little bit with this video, though I did record this live. What I thought it would be a good opportunity to do is to watch some of the video live and then pause it so we can go over some of the spots and some of the things that we talk about and we see and help to get a better understanding, because during the live play I may talk about what I'm doing, but I figured this way we can get a little bit of the why I'm doing it as well. So let's get the video started, and we'll pause it and go from there. This is the, bear with me, it was the €250 guaranteed tournament. It had a buy-in of $3 and 1,000 starting stack with an additional rebuy of another 1,000 on top. So again, like I talked about in the video earlier today, these tournaments I find have a pretty good overlay. Alright, I'm going to pause it right there. First, any of these tournaments that are Euro tournaments that have Euro guaranteed table, they have a Euro buy-in. So I said $3. I meant to say €3. Also, with these tournaments, with the rebuy and add-on, our total buy-in is going to be at least $9. So immediately when we buy into the tournament, we buy in for the $3. As soon as we're sat, we buy in for top up for another €3, giving us a double stack, and then we spend €3 during the add-on period. Frequently, we'll rebuy if we move down, if we get below 1,500 chips in the tournament, or 1,000 chips, whatever the buy-in is for that tournament. So just wanted to clarify that. With the rebuy, and there's a lot of dead money in the pot, and so again, I've been playing with them as part of the Bankroll Builder Challenge. Fortunately, I've been running pretty well at these MTTs as opposed to the cash games. So here is another final table. So hopefully we can get something going. We've got the $1,000 guarantee tournament running. It's on my other monitor, so the Queen Jack, if it's folded to us, well, we'll open this to like 3,500, and then if we're 3-bet or 3,800. We're going to get away from this, and we're not going to go crazy. If we hit a top pair hand, we'll probably we're going to pause it right there. The reason 3,600, the standard raise size a lot of the time is 3,600, which is double the bet. I like making it just even like a hair more, even if it's only $200, which it's less significant. The reason being is it looks a little bit bigger than a min raise, and with that anti-money in there too, any little thing that I can do to take down that dead money, because it's so valuable to us, I like to do. One of the reasons why in tournaments, especially with high stack to pot ratios, why we don't make 3x raises is if we raise it to 3x, it makes it very difficult to play post flop. So we want to have some maneuverability post flop through our raise size. So depending on what we're trying to accomplish, if we want to be able to just get it easily in on the flop, maybe we will raise a little bit bigger. But again, that all depends. We'll take it as it comes. Again, just trying to accumulate a little chips here. Again, the players at the table, for the most part, seem fairly solid. Again, like I noticed with the other tournament as well. We've got Buttered Midget here who's running a 23-17-5-9, so that's pretty solid. Here, we don't know too much about Tigrato's running a 28-22. The fours here, I know this is a little bit weak, but I'm just going to fold them here. Again, added position we have quite a few aggressive 3-betters behind us. As we can see, Tigrato, he's a 28-22, 17 3-bet. Here, this is Riki, he's a 23-12, 16 with an 8% 3-bet. And here we've got Space Case, 28-6-30. So Space Case looks to be the weakest of the opponents, as well as Bari, who's playing a 21-7 style. So these guys appear to be the weaker of the opponents. Okay, I just want to stop it right there while I was critiquing opponents. Again, with these amount of hands, it's very, very difficult to make accurate judgments about if a player's good or he's not good. Again, if you have all stats from the early rounds where they're just folding, you may have the stats that, the guy plays really tight where, maybe later in the tournament he tends to play more aggressive, or maybe some of these guys, and I mentioned in another video, the first video, is that some of these guys during the first hour, during the rebuy period, play super aggressive, play out of control, try to accumulate chips, and if you were to just make a snap judgment, maybe you would assume that that player was a weak opponent or a fish or something, but when in actuality they're a strong opponent, and they're also setting an image and stuff like that. Again, like I had said before, some of these opponents that I do recognize as more tournament regulars, such as Buttered Midget and Space Case, I've actually seen in quite a few tournaments too, and he seems to do okay. And again, also with 3-betting stats, it's really difficult over such a small hand sample. Like if we see Tigrato, Buttered Midget, we only have 136 hands. We only have 79 for Tigrato and 119 for Riki. The one thing it does say is, though, typically the more players, the loose passive players, like 28-6-30 with the 0-3 bet, that tells me that this is more of a loose passive player here in Space Case. So he's going to be just calling more, and he's going to be really taking much more passive lines. So if that guy gets aggressive with me, I know he most likely has a pretty strong hand, or hand that he thinks is pretty strong. Yet with some of the stats that some of the other opponents are running, a 27-22, 7-17, 23-17, 5-9, this tells me that these guys are playing a pretty tag style, tight aggressive style, and they're not just calling and playing passively, but they're willing to 3-bet, and typically they're going to be a more aggressive, more difficult opponent to play against. So when I make snap judgments about players, again, I forget, there's some rule. It's some theorem where some information is better than no information at all. So when we're heading into these tables and we have no information about the opponents, having even a little bit of information can help us make a better read in a lot of spots. And then and modified type as well, 18-7-11 as well. And these particular players appear to be the stronger of the players, so which is unfortunate. We kind of we'd rather have the stronger players to our right and the weaker players to our left, but especially in tournaments, we can't really choose who we put where. I'm going to pause it right there as well, too, because a lot of people may be scratching their head, because even after I was watching it, I was kind of, I was questioning myself as well. Don't you want the weaker opponents in your right? When you're playing in a cash game, you 100% always want the weaker opponents on your right, because that way you can, the loose passive type players who are calling too much and just check calling and giving up too easily and not playing back at you. You want those players to your right because you want to be able to see when they enter a pot, and then you're very likely going to open up your range of hands that you're going to be playing against them, because you want to be playing as many pots as possible with them, and you'll also be raising to isolate them to freeze out maybe some of the other better players who want to play hands with them as well. The disadvantage, obviously, of having to your left is you have to make a decision before they play, and you have to put money in and then hope they follow you, and obviously you're playing out of position and whatnot. In tournaments, I find it a little bit different, though, because the good players to your right, though they're going to be doing a better, I guess it's a balancing act. If you have good players to your right, they're going to be stealing your blinds more, and they're going to be probably opening more. But at the same time, they're going to understand, they're going to be folding a lot as well too. But yet, when you have the more aggressive players to your left, when you're looking for opportunities to steal, they can 3-bet you, as well as when you push, they understand a better range of what they should and shouldn't be calling with. So it's harder to exploit those opponents, where when you have the weaker opponents to your right, or to your left, they're going to be just folding way too much. So you're going to be able to steal steal from them and just push them around and take their blinds. And especially in these late stages of the tournaments, accumulating chips is so important. And those guys are just going to let you. A lot of these guys, they're trying to move up like one place in the money, and they're waiting till they get good cards. So you don't even have to make a big. You can do small raises, and they're going to fold. They're not going to be playing back at you unless they have big hands. And even when they do call, because they're more passive players, they're going to be giving up so much on the flop when they miss. And you can just put in a very small bet, and they're going to fold such a large percentage of the time that, again, you build a pot and then you bet to take it away. So for that reason, I prefer having the weaker players to my left and the stronger players to my right. Also, I can see what they're doing first. I know that those guys, they're going to be playing their hands and knowing what hands they should and shouldn't be playing, and they're going to be folding a lot when they've got weak hands out of position, especially. So again, in tournaments, I really like having position on the better players. If he raises, I'm going to fold here. Again, this guy's playing an 18-7 style, so I think he's a little bit more passive. On the bright side, with having the two excuse me, Bari, he's playing a 25-13, sorry, for whatever reason the stats aren't lined up properly. The one nice thing about having the passive players to my right, I think they're going to be stealing my blinds less, and they're going to be playing a little bit more straightforward. So with the King 10 suited here, I think calling is fine. Again, I don't want to go crazy with a top pair hand, but I think if he's limping here, he's probably doing it with a smaller medium pocket pair, probably a relatively marginal hand. Either that or he's limping under the gun with a really strong hand trying to trap. Either way, so on this board, it's super wet. I'm just going to bet 5,000. And, if this guy has a strong hand, such as ace king, queens, even aces or something, maybe he'll push over the top or something like that. So, but that board is so wet, I don't want to be giving free cards there. So just going to pause it there as well too. The reason I led into that, the last thing I wanted was everybody to check behind, and there's so many bad cards that can come for me on the turn that are either one, I'm going to lose value from them, so maybe the spade comes and everybody gets scared, or maybe the board pairs, or maybe it comes an ace or a queen or a jack to make it, to complete more straights. Now somebody could have had queen jack there. Now Buttered Midget, his range is very weak because he was in the big blind, so I don't expect him to have a very strong hand there a lot of the time. And T Grotto, the way I figured it was that he either has a small pocket pair like he either has a small pocket pair like twos, threes, fours, fives, sixes, or something like that, where he was just limping, or a suited connector, where he may not call anyway, or maybe he'd peel one and then give up or something like that. That board texture is pretty hard, but I felt like if he was limping a hand like aces, kings obviously had us crushed, but because we had king 10 and there was a king on board, very unlikely that he had kings. But if he had queens, I felt like he may have peeled one in that spot. So, or, again, if he had ace king, he'd definitely probably be going with a hand, or even a hand like king queen that maybe he would limp. So those are the reasons that I just led into that, and I wasn't going to give free cards, so because virtually every card is just is pretty bad for me. Again, I don't know. It's because with multiple now, Space Case is running a 27-6. So, though I think calling here with Ace King is fine, I think we're going to be in a lot of coin flips a lot of the time. I think he's doing that with probably small and medium pocket pairs and big pairs a lot of the time too. So I don't exactly, if I lose, if I win, I'm going to put myself in a really good spot in the tournament. But as is, I am in third place right now, so I don't need to make a huge risk play. And again, because he is playing a 28-7 style, I tend to think that his early position raise is a strong made hand. The only hand we're really ahead of there is ace queen, possibly ace jack, that I think he might be doing that with. But again, at 28-7, I don't think they're really jamming ace jack there that much. And again, without a specific read, again, I think folding's fine. Okay, I want to stop it there. A lot of people must be shaking their head in disbelief saying, how do you fold ace king in that spot to a jam here? And to be honest, it's a pretty easy fold for me in that spot. If the pot to stack ratio were much bigger, or if I mean when I said if the my chip to big blind ratio is much smaller, I still have 15 big blinds here. If I had less than 10 big blinds there, that's a mandatory call. But right now I've got 15 big blinds. Like I said, I'm in third place in the tournament, and I think I have a huge skill advantage over most of the opponents here. So why do I need to put myself in that spot? Now, again, a lot of you maybe you don't quite understand ranges or understand exactly the math. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to bring over Pokerstove and take a look at it. So this is Pokerstove. It's a hand software tool. So if we say that this particular opponent, he's an 8% raise, or 7% raise, excuse me, and he's opening from under the gun, and he has a pretty good chip stack. He's got 10 big blinds, so he's not forced to do anything right now. So I think he's going to be doing that with aces, kings, queens, jacks, tens, possibly nines. And who knows? He could even be doing it with eights, maybe. You know what I mean? And let's say he does it with ace king, and let's even throw in ace queen there as well too. I doubt he's doing that under the gun with ace jack. So that's the hand. We're going to give him that range, approximately a 6% range here, and we're going to hit OK. Now we're going to put in our hand, ace king offsuit. Hit apply and hit OK. And now we're going to evaluate it. And as we can see here, we're pretty much in a coin flip situation. We're actually slightly behind his range there. So why would I call off there to be in a coin flip situation? It just doesn't really make sense. I would much rather be pushing ace king than calling off with it. Now, given if we had a smaller chip stack and had less big blinds, then I would 100% it would be a mandatory call in that spot. But again, in that spot, there's just really no need for it. And again, we could be up, especially him just open jamming from under the gun. We could be up against aces or kings even, which again puts us in a bad spot. So. That's why I decided to fold there. And again, I don't even, I think it's the right play in that spot. Though, if I didn't feel like I had a skill advantage at the table, or I felt that the blinds were coming around really quickly, or if I felt that I had a specific read on that opponent that I know he will shove hands such as king queen and ace 10 there that wide, then I probably do call there, because if we throw in hands such as king queen, ace jack, and all the way down to ace 10, it becomes, I believe it'll become a profitable call here. So yeah, if we throw in that range, now all of a sudden we're practically in a 60-40 spot. So there I would have called, but I didn't have a specific read, and the read that I did have said that he was relatively loose passive, so makes me think that his range is on the stronger end. And again, so that's why we decided to fold in that spot. If we were shorter in that spot, for instance, if we had only 10,000 chips, I think it would be a pretty mandatory call, because we'd have to get lucky, and we'd have to and we'd want to chip up. But here, because considering the fact that we are in third position, and like I mentioned in the other video, I think we have a significant edge at the table post flop, so I don't think I need to take as many risks as possibly some of these other players may need to. So I am just going to be playing pretty straightforward and trying to get my money in when I have a huge edge. So to a early position open with ace 2 out of position, that's a pretty easy fold. Obviously with the ace 2, we're going to be against a lot of dominated aces that are in his range. If it's folded to us, or if modified type B jams, we're going to jam over the top. And again, when space case raises here, and this particular villain calls, I think that this is a pretty easy fold in this spot. Um, so we see here space case raise king jack. Um, And again, with Bari raising here, with King Queen, and he's raising to 9,800, this could be a little bit of a tilt raise. We're not sure, but again, I think folding King Queen here is fine, offsuit. Let me go back here. I just want to take a look here if we pull up with the hand history here. So he called with Queen 9 suited and then was raising big. That's either way. I just don't think I need to put myself in marginal spots. Again, it could have been a tilt raise there on the next hand. And if I had ace king there, I would have snap jammed on him, but against that particular villain. But so and we're gonna fold the queen 10 here. So that was pretty marginal at best here, raising the what was it, 9-7. Yeah, I'm raising the 9-7 off. I think that that's pretty bad um, in that spot. That just reminded me of a good point. So this particular villain here, modified type, he's running a 16-8. So 16-8 tells me he's raising a very tight range. But it reminds me of Mike Caro. There's a Mike Caro's law of loose wiring, which basically says sometimes people just feel like playing a hand and sometimes they just feel like raising, and there's no rhyme or reason. So even though this player appears to be playing really tight, he just decided to, with also with his stack size, I believe at the time too, raising there, just it really didn't make sense. But so just wanted to have that observation. Not really thrilled after this guy called with the queen 9 and then raised. That could have been a tilt raise, but again, we won't harp on the pass. We'll just move forward. But that's a little bit tight. But again, like I said, I like to put myself in pretty plus EV situations. So we're going to talk about that king queen hand as well. With the king queen, when he raised, the problem in that spot is, even if looking back on it now, I think I have to fold, because the problem is he's raising to 9,800 and I only have like 2,500 left. So if I jam over the top, theoretically he is required to call. I shouldn't have any fold equity. So he could be raising a hand like ace 2 or something, and it could be a tilt raise, and then I jam over the top, and then he calls because there's so much money in the pot. Also, he has a big chip stack there. So, and then also calling in position, it's a really, because he raised so big, and this goes back to our point about why we want to min raise, because it leaves us some maneuverability. He puts himself in a, again, that's a tough spot for him, because with modified type, myself, buttered midget, Riki. Tigrato's a little bit deeper. He can get away with getting away from him. But if any three of us jam over his raise there, he's pretty much required to call, because he only is going to have to call like 12,000 more. Well, depending on who it is, he's only going to have to call 12,000 more, 14,000 more, 8,000 more. And in Buttered Midget's case, if he calls, he doesn't want to have to call anymore, but again, he's probably crushed if he gets called. So that's the problem with making a raise so big there. You're committing a lot of chips, and if you actually do have a garbage hand in that spot, and you just don't even want to call, well, then you're putting in a lot of chips just to fold. And then for me, with the King Queen specifically, if I jammed over the top and he calls with an ace hex hand, or even if he calls with two undercards, I don't have that much, again, I don't have that big of an advantage in that spot there. It's still very, it's still a very neutral EV spot, because even if any two random cards, even like if I have ace king and he's got Jack 10 or something, or if I have King Queen and he has Jack 10 and he decides to call, I'm still only a 65% favorite about here. Let's actually, we'll run it in Pokerstove here. There we go. Yeah, so I'm about a 65% favorite there. So 65% favorite, yeah, is that a good spot to be in? Yeah, it's not a bad spot to be in, but do I really want to be putting my tournament life on the line in that spot? At best getting at 65% there, and if he's got a pocket pair, like if he's got a pair like sevens, we're in a coin flip situation. And oops, I put the sevens in there, not that it really matters. If king queen here offsuit, again, not that it matters because it's the same thing, but if we put in sevens here, we're going to be in a coin flip situation. So even if he's raising pocket sevens, and we raise and get it in or call or whatever, and then we're in a coin flip situation where we're slightly behind. And if oops, I think I accidentally, we just need straight king queen there. Yeah, so it's about a coin flip situation, like we said. That's pretty basic. I would expect that most of you guys who are watching this would know that. But if he has a hand like even give him ace 2 suited, he's actually ahead here. So, he's got a garbage hand, but he's actually ahead of us, 60-40. So really no good spot there. And like I mentioned before, we really can't call, because then we're committing too many chips. And what do? If we call and we miss the board and he bets, we don't exactly want to call off our tournament life with king high. So, I think the fold was the best play there. And the threes here, again, I'm just going to fold these from early position. Now that's the second time we folded a small pocket pair from early position. The problem is, again, with these small pocket pairs from early position, if we limp and get raised, we really don't want to call to set mine. If we limp or if we raise and we get called or raised, if we get raised, we have to fold. If someone just calls behind us and has position, we're in a really bad spot, because there's going to be virtually no good flop for us. So, if we have pocket threes, we raise it to 5,600, we get one call, the flop comes down king 7-5, are we really happy about c-betting into it? Let's say, because there's no, it's really difficult for us to improve. The chance of flopping a set is, 1 in 10 about, and so it's just going to be so difficult to play post-flop, and with the blinds being so big at this point, it's just, we really just don't want to be dumping chips in the pot here. And again, a lot of the time, if a guy has pocket eights on a king 7-5 board, we raise, he calls, then we c-bet once small and he calls. Well, do we really want to be putting any more chips in there? No. And again, and then what we end up doing is we ended up checking it down. Well, if he calls with an ace-x hand, even like calls one bet, maybe he's got ace-queen or something on the king-high board. He calls one, then we check the turn and he puts in a small bet. Well, again, we really can't call. So I think when the blinds are this big and we're early position, our best option is going to be just to fold these small pocket pairs. Just as another note as well, right now we have just about 10 big blinds as well too. So this is at this stage when the blinds are this high with our chip stack, we're really going to be trying to play push fold poker for the most part. So we're basically just going to either go all in with our hand pre-flop or we're going to fold, just like the name implies. Now, given if we're in the small blind or if we're on the button, maybe we'll do with 10 big blinds. I think it's okay to put in a min raise and just to try to take down the blinds without risking your whole stack. I think that that's fine too. But other than that, I think if it's a hand that we actually want to play and we think it's ahead of the opponent's range, we're pretty much either just going to be pushing or folding. So with that being said, if I'm going to be pushing hands, I don't exactly want to push pocket threes from under the gun, because when I get called, best case scenario, I'm going to be in a coin flip situation versus ace-king, ace-queen, king-queen, or something like that. Worst case scenario, I'm going to be absolutely dominated by a bigger pocket pair. So actually, let's take a look at this on the Pokerstove as well, since we've been doing that. So we've got pocket threes here, and we're going to apply that. And then what are opponents going to be calling with? Let's just say they're going to be calling with eights plus, ace king, and ace queen. I think that that's pretty much the calling off range for most villains here for calling a jam in that spot. So we'll put that in, we'll apply it, and we can see we are absolutely getting crushed. 66-33. So the amount for the chances that the times that we pick up the blinds and we get folds isn't going to make up for the times that when we get called and we're just going to absolutely be dominated. Again, best case scenario, we're going to be in a coin flip against ace queen or ace king. Worst case scenario, we're going to be up against a bigger pocket pair. And just to see, for those of you who don't know, when you're up against a bigger pocket pair and you're dominated, you're in an 80-20 spot. So you can just see, when you get called by a bigger pocket pair and you have a smaller pocket pair, your chance of winning is just slim to none. So the best you can hope for is that they have ace-king or they have ace-queen. Okay. Just in this other tournament, I got it all in with queens versus ace-8 and jacks, and the guy went runner for a straight with the ace-8. He went 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 with ace-8. So because of buttered midget stack here, I was going to call because of butter midget stack here. It's pretty, but now that we've got Bari behind us, now I'm just going to fold. So that's an important concept that I think is often missed by players. So Buttered Midget had a little bit less than 12,000, yeah, he had about, I think, 10,000 or something like that. If we rewind the video, we can see exactly what his stack size was. 8 with ace-8. So he had 9,000 starting chips there. So again, I think this is a concept that a lot of players make the mistake of. Now, given with King 8, this is a mandatory call in this spot here. But really, this is a mandatory call with any two cards, including 7-2 offsuit. The reason being is, at this point, assuming nobody else calls, there is $1,500 dead money in the pot. There's $2,100 dollars in the pot here as well, and we already have 3,000 in the pot. So in essence, we have to win 6,000. We have to put in 6,000. So only two bets, two big blinds. That's it to call here. So we're getting the right price with any two cards here. So, and the way we do figure that calculation would be, okay, there's 9,000 in the pot here, plus our 3,000 is 12,000, plus the 2,000 here, the 2,100 is about 15,000, plus the 1,500 here is about 16,500. So that, and then we're going to have to call another 6,000. So we'll add that in as well. So that's 22,000. So we have to call 6,000 to win 22,000. And if we just do the math here, if we pull the calculator up here, if we do 6 divided by 22 equals 27%. So all we need to be getting is 27% equity in that spot to make our car profitable. And with virtually any two cards, we're going to have at least 30. We're going to have at least 32% equity, at least, virtually always, unless if he has aces or aces or kings there, something like that, it's going to be less. But even so, it's still a mandatory call. And especially with the king high, it makes it a very, very easy call in that spot. Plus, we also know that Buttered Midget is under the gun here, and he's about to get blinded out in this spot. So as opposed to doing that, he's going to pick a hand and he's going to try to go with it. So we know he also has a very wide range. So I think even a king is pretty good against that range there. I think he's definitely pushing any two broadways. He's pushing all ace x hands, any king x hands, most queen x hands even. Jack 10, Jack 9, those sorts of hands. So again, King 8 is actually not going to be too bad against his range either. But even if it wasn't, any two cards there, it's a mandatory call. So because of Buttered Midget stack here, I was going to call because of Butter Midget stack here. It's pretty, but now that we've got Bari behind us, now I'm just going to fold. And so this is a spot we're going with ace queen no matter what here. The fact that Buttered Midget is thinking about this makes me think he has a hand like 9s, 10s, or even ace jack. Oh, look, there's our queen. Again, a lot of you guys may be thinking, oh, well, even though we already explained it earlier in the video, being like, wait a minute, you folded ace king, but then it's a mandatory call from ace queen there. And again, all it has to do with is the how many big blinds we had. In that spot, we had less than 10 big blinds. So we were, again, ace queen is more than good enough to call off with. And also because of his stack size, and again, the blinds coming around, he was forced to make a move. Therefore, his range was going to be much, much wider. Again, ace 4, as we saw, he jammed with any ace, as opposed to earlier in the tournament, in the table where Space Case with still more players than the opponent, and he had a pretty deep stack at that point. He still had over 10 big blinds. There'd be no reason for him to jam a weak hand from under the gun there. So again, that's the big difference in that spot. And we've seen him make a lot of, again, we saw him make a questionable raise before. Again, the problem is if he's bluffing here, even with a hand like 10-9, he's got 2 overs with us, and we still have players left to act. I could go either way on that call or fold there because, again, like I said, we saw him push some marginal hands there, and he had a pretty short chip stack there. I think calling is probably the best play. I think folding's pretty weak, to be honest with you. Again, even if he does have two random overcards, when we call, most likely where everybody else behind us is going to fold too. And not only that, if we're going to play the hand, we're probably better off when he jams to just rejam ourselves to prevent hands like ace jack from calling as well. I think if he goes all in and then we jam, I think there's a good chance that Buttered Midget folds ace jack there because calling, he's a pretty good opponent, and and his chip stack is, he's got more than 10 big blinds there. Calling a jam and a rejam with ace jack is really bad, and I don't think he would do that in that spot. So I think our best play is to rejam the sevens there, and I think folding was pretty weak. Again, especially since we did see him make some questionable plays. And even if we were in a coin flip situation, even if he had a hand like Jack 8, like we said, well, that's okay. We're slightly ahead. And even if we lose, we're still going to have 26,000 chips and going to be able to play. So folding the sevens there, I think, was a mistake in that spot. And not only, but I think calling would have been a mistake too. I think the only play would be to rejam over the top there. So we relaunched the HUD, and it actually launched it worse than it was before. But again, we have a general idea. Of who's doing what, and here we hopefully that won't screw up our other HUD layout, but for our other games. But ooh, monster. And again, under the gun raise, we can just easily fold this hand, obviously. And we're going to fold the ace-3 here. Again, I expect Space Case to have a pretty strong hand here. And he's playing a 26-7, or a hand that he perceives to be strong when he's raising so big. It looks like we're going to be taking a quick break, and if that's the case, then we will. I'm just going to pause the recording, and we'll continue once the break's over. All right, so we're back starting. Just a side note, I think it's kind of funny how they say waiting for other tables to finish, even though we're the only table here, and we can clearly see down in the player box it says 5 of 53 players left. So, with the post Black Friday, some of these smaller sites not quite as polished as Full Tilt and Stars were, in my opinion. So far, though, Mint has been pretty good to me, so I can't complain. And the software, it's better than it's not as good as some that I've used, and it's better than a lot of others that I've used as well. So, it again. I think raising the king eight is fine here, but again, with two aggressive opponents who uh, will definitely three bet, I think folding is also fine, and the fact that Bari just limped in as well, that makes our decision quite easy. Now that's a spot I don't think I did a good job of explaining it. I think if it's folded to us, jamming king eight again I think is fine. I think it's okay there, but again I don't think we need to. And also the big thing is when I say aggressive opponents, Tigrato and Buttered Midget are pretty good opponents, so they have a better understanding of ranges and they're going to know what they should and shouldn't be calling off with. So typically weaker and more passive opponents, they're going to be folding way more to jams, but guys like Tigrato and Buttered Midget are going to understand what hands they should and shouldn't be calling off with, such as certain Ace X hands and certain King X hands and things of that nature. So I think that you know that folding in that spot is fine as well too. We still have eight, and we don't have to make a move so quickly. It's the beginning of the level as well too, so we can let it go around more, or we can wait till we have a little bit better spot. If that was king 9 or king 10, I think it's a pretty mandatory jam, but with king 8, it's close. We could run it in the wizard and whatnot, or the Nash equilibrium and all that other stuff, and it would probably say that we should jam there, especially with the dead money in the pot. But again, I think you can go either way. I don't think there's any one absolute right or wrong answer, and that's the beautiful thing about poker. But we're getting close to where we're going to have to start. We're going to want to start accumulating chips as well too, though, where we want to just pretty much pushing hands a little bit, because now we're under 10 big blinds. We're going to be looking for some good spots to just pick up, if we can pick up the blinds and the antes here and there. Again, once Bari just limps in the hand as well, then especially we don't want to be jamming. One of the keys when we're jamming, it's important to know that our hand, if anybody's entered the pot, our hand has to be significantly stronger to jam. So if somebody raises and we're going to jam all in, we need to have a pretty strong hand. Now with the blinds smaller, but I'm talking especially earlier in the tournament. And again, I think that's a Sklansky theorem. Once somebody opens the pot or raises, our hand has to be significantly stronger to either call with or to raise with. In that particular spot. So once Bari does enter the pot, it is just a mandatory fold with king 8 there. Again, unless we have a specific read where we know Bari will limp and then fold. If we know there's a good chance Bari will limp and then he only limps weak hands or small pocket pairs that he's unwilling to go with, in that case, then it might be a good spot to jam. But again, without a specific read, when he just enters the pot, and we have seen him call with some pretty marginal hands, like that Queen 9 hand in that one spot. So we don't want to really put our tournament life on the line here with the King 8 once he limps in. We're going to be, that's going to be just fine for us. So Bari got a little unlucky, but at the same time, so there, as we can see too, Bari was limping a big hand in that spot, and that just goes to show why pushing a marginal hand once somebody's entered the pot without a specific read. You just don't know how these opponents are going to play. If you know, again, if I had a specific read, it would be one thing, but without a specific read, he entered the pot. We want to have the initiative, and we would have been in an absolutely dominated situation there versus him getting it all in. Tried to get he tried to get fancy, and again, I'm just going to fold the king 10 here. He appears to. Last time he lost a big pot as well. He outright raised it as well. Um, so yeah, this appears that could be tilt raises, but again, we really don't know. I'm just hypothesizing here. And again, we're unsure. Last time he lost the big pot too. That was our one read we had. King Queen is still just not strong enough once he already has opened. Because again, we have no fold equity. When we're pushing, we want to have fold equity. So with a hand like King 10, we want to have the best, the best outcome for us is having everybody fold and just picking up the dead money, or ideally having somebody call with a dominated hand, like having somebody call with King 9. That would be great, and obviously not hitting. But more times than not, when we jam a hand like King 10, people's calling off range is much stronger than their jamming range, like we talked about. So if we jam a hand like King 10 and we get called, a lot of the time we're going to be behind, and we're going to be dominated a lot of the time as well by hands like King Queen, King Jack, Ace King, even pocket pairs bigger, like even tens, jacks, queens, things like that. So that's why, again, even when he opens, even if we think we're ahead of his range, we have no fold equity. So I'd rather have a spot, be picking up some dead money, and then waiting for maybe some good hands to be jamming for value. Once he raises there, me jamming King 10 over the top will be for value, and I really just don't think it's strong enough to be jamming for value over the top there. So the King 2. So I want to just make a comment there. My phone rang and I answered it, and then I was sending it to replying with the text. I was waiting for a phone call. I was only playing one table when I was recording the video and whatnot. As a general rule, when actually I think I was playing in two tables because I was playing on the other tournament as well. In general, as a general rule, I never have my phone. I never answer my phone, or I even don't, and have the ringer shut off when I play. When we play, we should be focused on just playing and really focusing and avoid all distractions, such as we don't want to be looking at web pages or watching TV or talking to our buddies or browsing through the magazine or browsing the internet or whatever. We want to be, when we're playing, we should be playing. So again, I shouldn't have even, my ringer shouldn't, even though I was expecting a call, my ringer shouldn't have even been on, and I should have, even waited till I was done to reply with the text, because again, though, the decisions now, they're not going to be too complicated, I don't feel. Again, it's just about habits, and if we want to be playing our best poker all the time, that means eliminating all the outside distractions while we play. Um, Again, we're going to fold to a jam here. Oh, and we got some action. And Queen 7. Oof. So if it's folded around to us, we're just going to jam. Picking up the blinds here is just fine. And we're going to fold the 8-3 here. Expect buttered midget to jam, which he does. And because we have less than 10 big blinds, jamming any pair here I think is fine. Oh, there's our 2. And there's his suck out. So we ended up finishing 5th for a 37.80, which I think, again, it was a $3 buy-in tournament, so pretty good score there. Again, unfortunate. I think that Space Case's call there with Queen Jack is a little bit suspect, but like we had talked about before, this type of player looks to be more of a recreational player, and with 2 Broadway cards in that spot. Again, they feel that a lot of time that's a big hand there, and again, so it is what it is. But until next time, this is Sebastian, Natural Mystic Pollock, signing off for rakebackdollars.com. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about that last hand a little bit as well. Again, I think that, like I said, his call there was a little bit questionable, though weaker players and players who maybe they don't understand ranges quite as well, they're going to, overvalue a hand that Queen Jack suited, thinking that it's a good hand there. So if we even pull a Pokerstove here, and why, like we talked about, your hand needs to be that much stronger to be calling off with, as opposed to jamming there. And if we take a quick look back as well, if we just go 3780, we'll move back here. We had 34,000 chips. So in this spot, we probably had a little bit less. I think we had 32,000. So he was calling off for half his stack with Queen Jack there, which for 8 big blinds approximately, I really just don't think it's a very good call there. And again, if we look at the Pokerstove one more time, so we'll just give myself a range. If I'm jamming any pair, which I'm going to be jamming in that spot from that position, ace, king, and we'll say probably virtually any suited ace even, or we'll even just say that I'm jamming up till ace-7. I'm jamming ace-7 all the way up. I could be jamming any ace there as well too. For the argument's sake, we'll put in. Let's say I'm jamming any ace, any hand, king, queen, or king 9 suited or better, king 9 off or better, queen jack, and we'll even throw in queen 10 in there. So assuming I'm jamming this entire range, I'm jamming 27% here, and we apply it. And then now we put in queen jack suited. We can see, he's a 43% favorite, and the only reason he's even getting that good of prices is because we included the queens here, like the weaker queens, and because he has those small pocket pairs that he has to outrun as well too. So even though we had the small pocket pair, he has 50% there. But that's a spot where best case scenario he's going to be in a coin flip situation, and the rest of the time he's either going to be dominated, like he's going to be absolutely dominated by king queen. He's going to be king queen, king jack, ace jack, all those hands are absolutely going to be dominating his hand. Aces, kings, queens, jacks. Now, he's not really worried about jacks plus, but even if we do have those hands, he's crushed. He's crushed to the ace queens, the king queens, the ace jacks. He's absolutely crushed in an 80-20 spot there as well. And we have a lot in that spot too from where we are jamming. We're going to have a lot more, ace 10, ace jacks, king jack, king 10 type hands in our range. So that's why I think him calling off there for half his chip stack was a mistake. But, again, he got lucky, and in these tournaments, like we talked about, you got to have a lot of luck in them, and you've got to put yourself in plus EV spots. So in the long run, though, that won't be a profitable call for him. And again, like in the long run, our jam is going to be profitable for us. So I know any of you guys who are probably watching this video, the volatility and the variance of these MTTs is just unbelievable. It seems like you get sucked out on all the time, and that's just the nature of the beast. You just got to keep going at it, keep playing good, solid poker, and eventually you'll, your hands will hold up. And over the long run, again, the variance will iron itself out. And if you're constantly getting yourself in situations where you're getting the money in ahead, you're going to be profitable. But okay, we'll end there. I look forward to hear your guys' comments and questions. And this is Sebastian, Natural Mystic Pollock, signing off for rakebackdollars.com.